立法會主席
The President. The Council and Committee now continues with the Appropriation Bill 2013. We now continue with including 57 heads into the schedule and the debate on that. Mr. Albert Chan, please have a head count according to 17.3. Does any member wish to speak? Before I invite Mr. Albert Chan to speak for the third time, I'd like to ask for other members who have not yet spoken, does any member wish to speak? If not, Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. About including the 57 heads into the schedule, I will go through them one by one to state my opposition to these heads being instead part of the schedule. As I said last time, if we can successfully veto the inclusion of heads into the schedule, the government must therefore withdraw the appropriation bill, and this will help facilitate an overall review and amendment to the appropriation bill. So if during the second stage reading, if you also oppose the appropriation bill, you should also oppose these 57 heads. So if I can put forward more grounds to lobby members, we may be able to have an unprecedented withdrawal of the appropriation bill by the administration. There are members here, quite a lot of them, who are not agreeing with some of the or part of the appropriation bill, including those from the pro-establishment camp. Now, Chairman, last time I was on Head 49, I was talking about the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department and their bullying tactics on street sleepers and food stalls. Now, there is another problem in relation to hygiene. Now, about the maintaining hygiene, that's one of the functions of the FEHD. And in our 700-odd CSAs, we did propose cutting the expenditure for FEHD. For example, CSA 183, which has to do with a reduction of $1.5 billion in relation to the annual estimated expenditure on street cleansing, and 184, CSA number 184, involving $436 million, and also other CSAs. I won't go through them one by one. Now, Mr. Albert Chan, please refrain from talking about CSAs. Please go back to these 57 heads. All right, I am going to finish because last time I didn't have the chance to talk about my amendments. Now, one of my justifications in relation to environmental hygiene is that there is a big flaw here in relation to the FEHD's supervision on the outsourced contractors. And as a result, the outsourced workers' interests are compromised. And over the years, we have read news reports and received complaints in relation to wage defaults, and some even amounted to over $2 million. Some received very low wages, and some contractors used various excuses to reduce the workers' wages. And they also set out very unreasonable penalties. For example, on a certain ground if the worker is accused of breaching a certain rule, then a fine will have to be paid. For example, if the worker collects some recyclable items that can be realized, for example, waste paper, and does realize them, then the worker will be penalized. And there has also been a report saying that some workers set up their own space for rest. So they were shocking, and there are various reports like this. The other point about the service is that the quality of service varies. For example, according to some media reports, some contractors' vehicles have not followed the designated route and designated schedule to collect refuse. It has caused environmental hygiene problems and other problems. For example, we've also seen cases of using illicit fuel. For example, some refuse point for the use by refuse collecting vehicles were actually used as a illegal gas filling station. I won't list out the problems one by one. And there is also another problem in the past. An outsourced worker, due to mismanagement, was in fact knocked over by an RCV. So it's really worrying. There are other problems. Street sleepers are bullied, and some workers also bullied elderly people, elderly scavengers at refuse collection points, and some citizens then scolded these outsourced workers. Only by then did they stop bullying the elderly people. The other dissatisfaction we have towards the FEHD is about the prevention of vector-borne diseases. That's the problem of mosquitoes. Because of heavy rainfall, mosquito problem is very prominent in Hong Kong, but right now, according to the index, only one species of mosquitoes is being monitored, and there are also other insects and pests affecting environmental hygiene. For example, there's another pest or insect, and which can also affect the environment, but no data has so far been collected. Mr. Albert Chen, I think you are spending too much time in commenting on the performance of government departments. All right, I'll just quote several examples because these areas are intertwined. Mosquitoes, it affects the health and lives of millions of people. So substandard service can have great impact on our livelihood. It's just a small mosquito, but it can be fatal, and this can become international news headlines, especially when it is for us to approve funding to government departments. But if the government department is not managing the issues properly, then that's a problem. So that's why I am trying to lobby members to support. Well, Mr. Albert Chan, please make good use of your time. This is the third time you speak. Chairman, my arguments are very sound, but anyway, I won't argue further. So about the FEHD, on the whole, that's all I want to say. Now I'd like to turn to Home Affairs Bureau. That's Head 53. Head 53, that's to do with HAB, which involves a number of functions. For example, providing subvention to the Hong Kong Arts Development Council, and on the promotion of civic education in Hong Kong. And on civic education, I do have strong views. Chairman, the Secretary for Home Affairs is actually your brother, and there is a speculation that he is a Communist Party member. Please refrain from digressing, Mr. Albert Chan. No, it's relevant. If he is a Communist Party member, it's really a concern whether he will be promoting Communist Party education. For promoting civic education, the expenditure is about $20.3 million. And the expenditure has to do with visits to the mainland. And you know that people of Hong Kong are very concerned about sort of brainwash education and tours to the mainland. Many parents are worried whether their children will be brainwashed and indoctrinated with content or ideologies other than civic education, to the extent that these children might form biased views, they might be brainwashed, and this is a concern of our people. The Legislative Council, therefore, must show our concern and to ensure that our younger generation will not be subject to this kind of improper education. About Head 53, the Home Affairs Bureau, we should consider reducing expenditure for this head. Now, for Home Affairs Bureau, one other function is on public and community relations. Now, people are not very familiar, but I think that for liaison officers of the Home Affairs Bureau, they are actually officers working in the district for the purpose of collecting intelligence. Whether they work under the when the public contacts these liaison officers, their data will be collected and saved in a central database. And many people are not familiar with the work. So if we allow them to continue with this kind of work in secret, then it's unfair to the public. So by vetoing the appropriation of funds to the Home Affairs Bureau, this can help prevent the collection of personal data without the knowledge of the data subject. And on cultural or expenditure on cultural activities, it's a de facto transfer of benefits. We see a lot of district arts organizations, and they are actually affiliated or subsidiary organizations of some political parties. And in some district courts, they're dominated by pro-establishment members. And the close ties formed could help transfer or transform the illegal transfer of benefit to legal ones. And just like the rebate of rates, it's $160 million for two consecutive years. So by subsidizing these cultural groups, it is a major element of transfer of benefits. Although the amount may not be astronomical, for example, in my CSA, 2009, it involves a reduction of just $5.71 million. The amount may not be great, but if the deed is using the disguise of subsidizing cultural groups, then in fact it's just transfer of benefits.
The Home Affairs Bureau also provides a subsidy to the SF&OC, and the amount is $18 million. I believe we all know the operation of the SF&OC and also the relationship among these various sports organizations. And very often we see laymen leading the experts, and very often these organizations are controlled by those who are powerful and influential. And those who really love sports cannot play any part, and these organizations controlled by the wealthy and the powerful very often waste quite a lot of money. Does any other member wish to speak? I'll let Mr. Yiu-chung speak first. Chairman, today I want to speak on Head 170, the Education Bureau. Yesterday, I talked about the work of the Labor and Welfare Bureau. And I opposed the inclusion of the head because there was a lot of work that could be done without funding. Today, I oppose the inclusion of this head. I'm of the view that the funding provided to the Bureau is not enough, and I think more should be provided to the Bureau, and that's why I oppose the inclusion of this head in the budget. We understand that some secondary school teachers do want to proceed on voluntary retirement, but I understand that there no funding is set aside for early retirement of teachers. So the early retirement scheme can serve two purposes. At the moment, some schools are unable to enroll enough students, and with the voluntary and early retirement scheme, some teachers can retire, and that will lessen the pressure on schools. And then second, now the voluntary retirement scheme is mainly for more experienced teachers. And so, in fact, the scheme can help the government save money. So why is it that this year no money is set aside for the scheme? In my view, there should be money provided for in the budget to continue to implement the early retirement scheme. The scheme will help us achieve savings in the long run. And then I would like to talk about two other issues. First of all, integrated education. Mrs. Fanny Law advocated integrated education. She said that special education services were extremely costly, and so she advocated the idea of integrated education. She was of the view that those with special education needs could study in mainstream schools, and as a result, savings could be achieved. At the time, there were divided views in the education sector. Now, many were of the view that for those who were physically disabled, for those with hearing and visual impairment, it would be a good idea for these students to study in mainstream schools so that they could study together with other able-bodied students, and that would help them integrate into society in the future. Then, there are problems with the implementation of the concept. Now we have autistic children, hyperactive children, as well as children who are mentally disabled, who are also put into mainstream schools. And I believe you can imagine how difficult it is for the teacher to maintain order in the classroom if there are autistic or hyperactive children in the classroom together with other able-bodied students. In fact, more teachers are needed in such cases. I understand that for students, for schools of SEN children, the school will get an additional $10,000 as subsidy. But that amount is not enough for the school to hire extra teachers to help maintain order in the classroom and to help students with special educational needs. And as a result, the quality of learning and teaching in such schools deteriorates, and as a result, these schools become unpopular, and they suffer from under-enrollment of students, and they may even need to be closed down. And it's really a vicious cycle. Neither the able-bodied students nor the SEN students can benefit from such a learning environment. So it's really a total waste of our precious resources. I'm of the view that we should have more resources to hire more teachers, or we should have different types of special schools so that children with different educational needs can get the support and the assistance they need. I understand that a voluntary organization once wanted to set up a school in a district for students with learning difficulties, but then the plan did not succeed. It was really a pity. I don't know why that school could not be set up. Maybe it was because of inadequate resources. But I want to say that we do need different types of special schools to help children with different special educational needs. And also, occupational therapists, speech therapists, educational psychologists are needed to help these students. But we don't have these special schools, probably because of lack of resources. In fact, I've recently paid a visit to Taiwan together with parents of children with learning difficulties. And we saw that in Taiwan, they invested a lot of resources in training teachers, so that teachers knew very well the difficulties faced by children with learning problems. And teachers were also taught how to carry out assessments for children. But in Hong Kong, teachers are not responsible for doing the assessments. Educational psychologists from the Education Bureau carry out the assessments, and also the waiting time for assessment is very long, normally 2 to 3 years. And before the assessment, the students aren't able to benefit from existing support services and assistance. So if teachers can carry out the assessment, then learning problems can be identified at an early stage, and assistance and support can be given in a timely manner. And I can't see additional resources set aside in the budget for such purposes. In fact, schools with SEN children face lots of problems. They do not have enough teachers or teaching assistants. They do not receive adequate professional support and backup. So I think the FS should have allocated more resources to help students with SEN. That's why I oppose the inclusion of this head in the budget. This is because the funding for SEN children is not enough. And then I want to say something about small class teaching. Now, the government is unwilling to implement small class teaching because of the resource implications. I think we all understand that if small class teaching is implemented, then more classrooms are needed, more teachers are needed. And so small class teaching can't be implemented without extra resources. As we all know, small class teaching is extremely useful and can help students learn more effectively. Teachers can spend more time with the students and can understand their learning needs and difficulties better. But the government is most reluctant to implement small class teaching. As a result, teachers can't have enough time to take care of their students, especially those with some special educational needs. And the FS has not set aside resources for implement small class teaching, and so I oppose the inclusion of head 170. I believe you are referring to 156, Mr. Leung Yiu-chung. 170 is SWD, 156 is Education Bureau. Sorry, Chairman, as well as head 156. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, I would like to first of all call for a head count, Chairman.
陳志全議員。
Mr. Chi-chuen. Thank you, Chairman. In this session, I will concentrate on Head 151, Security Bureau, as inclusion in the schedule, and it will include Head 122, Hong Kong Police Force, Head 130, CSD, and also the CNSD and also the Immigration Department. I will be speaking in 4 areas to say why I object to having Head 151 Security Bureau included. The first area is about the entertainment and overseas visit expenses of the 5 disciplined services. The Timothy Tong saga relating to the last chief executive alarms us, and it takes us to entertainment expenses, which has not caught our attention before, because expenses on entertainment will take up a very small proportion in the expenses of the entire government, and its actual dollar amount is not big at all. The highest is for the police force, and it is standing only at like $2 million, and for the rest is not even $1 million. But then we cannot say because it's a small evil we can be free to do some. We should not abuse it. We should not cheat. We should not involve in any corrupt practices. Because after all, we are talking about disciplined forces, and this may be the tip of an iceberg, and it can lead us to even bigger problems. But perhaps we have been negligent. The Timothy Tong saga will not be addressed today because it relates to the ICAC. If I have time to tackle the head of expenditure relating to the ICAC, I'll come back to it. With regard to the entertainment expenses of the 5 disciplined forces, members who fielded the oral question might have been influenced by the ICAC. The ICAC is very much independent, but disciplined services themselves are also independent kingdoms. Even legislators cannot really see through them. And even if you ask questions at the panels, you wouldn't have a lot of time to delve into too many issues. And I'd like to thank Mr. James Toh for asking the question at the Special FC about entertainment expenses for the 5 discipline services. And members of the public were right to say, wow, why is it like that? Immigration Department, there has been an increase of 67% over 5 years. 67%, which is at the top of the 5 discipline services. But then the actual dollar amount has to do with the police force, an increase of $2.6 million. But then the percentage is smaller for the police force. It stands at 31%. Then CNSD, 48%, and then 2 others, 46% and 44%. The Secretary for Security will have to answer these increases. And of course, he was very bureaucratic. He says any entertainment expenses must be spent on the premise of the exigencies of duty. Every department has to follow the CSRs and the relevant codes, and every amount should be handled and controlled by the controller. Now, if we are happy with such answers from Lai Tong Kwok, then we would not have this Timothy Tong saga. Now that we have opened this Pandora's box at the security panel or at the PAC, I think we should open our eyes wide to follow up on these issues. Actually, the departments can increase their expenses for good reasons, and I will not detail all the reasons advanced by the departments. What I want to say is actually the member asked for very detailed information. For example, the personal entertainment expenses for the head of department. But this time around in the answers, we do not have the breakdown. In other words, with one written question, we were not able to ask for very detailed information like those we got for Timothy Tong, how much for each gift and how much for each meal. I think the pro-democratic camp really have to continue to work hard on this. And also, the 5 discipline services do not tell us how much was spent in gifts. That is why I object to having Head 151, Security Bureau, to be included in the schedule. And also overseas duty visits. In fact, the amounts involved were even bigger. Again, the police spent the most. They spent over $10 million in 2011-2012. And for the other departments, they are also strange. CNSD, an increase of 66%. CSD, an increase of 64%. I don't know whether indeed the CSD is looking at contracting out its work to other places. That is why they had to look at prisons overseas. The CNSD told us that they had to establish liaison and cooperation with other counterparts. For example, last year they had to talk to Latin America authorities in order to crack down on large drug cases. Well, this looks like it could be trusted, but for the CSD, it is said that this related to inflation. But the inflation go up by over 60%? I find this unacceptable. Well, let us be fair. 46% increase for entertainment and 64% increase for overseas visits. When the Security Bureau gave an account on the entertainment and overseas duty visit figures for the 5 discipline forces under them, but then they did not give any breakdown, so we didn't know whether it was well spent or reasonable. For example, Immigration Department, there was the hot air balloon incident, the nuclear meltdown in Japan, etc. And they sent teams over in order to protect the interests of Hong Kong people in those places. I know that some officers actually did not even have the time to go home and pack before they were sent off to these places at work. It is only right that you spend what you should spend, but then when figures come back to LegCo, if they are so confusing, if you say you do not have a certain breakdown, then it's very difficult for us to really monitor your work. It is not that we don't want to give you any money to do what you have to do, but we want to bring out this message. You have to let us know the detailed figures so we can look at each and every item and assess them. But if you say we need to go to every place in the whole wide world to establish relationship, now, for example, one discipline service said that they had to establish relationship with overseas authorities. Well, if that's the case, do I need to give you money for a world tour every year? Because you need to establish relationship with all these authorities. This is the first area that I like to talk about, and this is the main reason why I object to having Security Bureau expenses included. The second area leading me to object to incorporating 151 is that the police and the handling of protests and marches and the excessive force used. It is not that they used excessive force. That can be debated again, but it actually deliberately hid figures from the LegCo. And this year, there was a written reply to the use of OC foam by the police. It is said that in the past 4 financial years, at 5 protests or marches, OC foam was used. And then, of course, we are very pure people. We just take your words for them. But then we found out that this was not true. The Civic Human Rights Front actually discovered that at least in 8 marches in the past 4 years where OC foam was used, including the Hong Kong section, the Li Wangyang March, and also Hu Jintao's visit to Hong Kong, and 5 others. We had also news clips. We had news reports on them. So when the police and the Security Bureau reported to LegCo and they deliberately gave a smaller number, was it because of carelessness, or were we the easy, gullible ones who could be cheated? Actually, if you mislead the LegCo, it is a crime, because that amounts to cheating the public. At the panel and also at the Special Finance Committee, we asked them for storage of OC form, and they said there was no figure, or they said that they could not disclose it because of security considerations. Does it mean that if you let us know the number of OC foam canisters you have, that would have an impact on the number of protests and marches? Well, this is also under Head 151. We do see a problem there. And also in 2010, there were 14 times that OC foam was used. And in 2011, it rose to 28 times. And then last year alone, there were 27 times that OC foam was used. This is the second area why I object to having 151. Number 3, the Filipino incident. Recently, a Taiwan fisherman was shot, and this brings back to mind the hostage incident that happened 3 years ago. And we wanted to settle the scores with the Security Bureau, which said that it had always worked through the Filipino consulate in Hong Kong to follow up the matter, and also to give a satisfactory reply to the 4 requests, first apology to compensation, etc., which were requested by the families. But then the elder brother of the short guide said that, in fact, that was always said by the SARG over the past 3 years. They were just like a human flesh audio tape recorder, and it had not done anything. If you look at the Taiwan government now, it really stood out to fight for the interests of the people. And 3 years have passed. We were just asking you to get the other party to apologize and compensate, but you failed to do either. Again, that's evidence for negligence of duty. Number 4. This is also a main point. I don't know whether 3 minutes will be enough. And this has to do with the people with different sexual orientation. I think they have created a mess out of all this, and the examples are numerous. Sau-lan was in this ceremony, and there was a male inspector grabbing a female protester from behind, and the Secretary for Security was said to be condoning the abuse of power by the police. Actually, this does not only happen with the police. It could also happen with other discipline services. Actually, this does happen very often. First of all, they do not respect people with different sexual orientations. There are internal guidelines that male officers should search some people, and female officers searching other people, and also apprehending suspects, etc. I don't want to go into the details because you see this in newspapers, but I'd like to look at the CSD. The transsexuals did have a problem with the CSD. I think they did such a bad job with the transactions. They actually amounted to telling lies. And I can give you one example. Some transsexuals came to the LegCo to complain. Originally, the CSD said that there would be psychiatrists and psychologists testifying to the fact that a person is transsexual, and then as Sau-lan, these people would be served by a group targeting such people. But then this is beautiful talk, but then there is this person who has become a female but not a male anymore. And actually, as you know, all males would have to shave their head in prison. But then this person is actually a female already, and she has it in her identity card. And then she still had her hair shaved, and this person was actually stripped to the skin, and it was found that she had no penis because she is already a woman. And this woman was subject to such gross insult that she banged her head against the wall. This goes against the ICCPR. and also the internal guidelines of the CSD. The CSD email would say something, but then in actuality it's something else. I will certainly follow up this case on other occasions. Does any other member wish to speak? Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, please sit down. I'd like to say that before I invite Mr. Leung Kwok-hung to speak, I'd like to ask whether there are other members who would like to speak. I'd like to invite all members who would like to speak to press the request to speak button. Sorry, Chairman. In order to allow everybody to hear what you say, I'd like to call a head count. Please summon members to come back.
夠啦，夠啦。我現在呢
I now ask members once again. I invite all members who would like to speak in this debate. That's the debate in relation to including 57 heads in the schedule. Would members who would like to speak in this debate please press the button. Mr. Kwok-hung, please be seated. If you wish to speak, please press the request to speak button. I am afraid that you'll be cheating, so I am applying to you that I want to speak for 10 times, so I'm going to press the button for 10 times. Mr. Kwok-hung, please be seated. Now, 4 members have pressed the request to speak button. They're in this order: Mr. Kwok-hung, Mr. Albert Chan, Dr. Fernando Zhang, and Mr. Chi-chuen. I'd like to ask once again, does any other member, especially members who have not yet spoken in this debate, would like to speak? If so, please press the request to speak button. Now, members, this debate has gone on for 5.5 hours. 2/3 of the time were used by 4 members, and namely these 4 members who have pressed the request to speak button. And they've spoken for a number of times. And for the 4 members who have pressed the button requesting to speak, over the past few hours, they have spoken 3 or 4 times respectively. For other members, there were few other members who had wished to speak, and I have asked 3 times whether there are any other members who wish to speak. So I think that there has been ample time in this debate for these 4 members to speak. I will allow each of these 4 members to speak one more time before concluding this debate, after which the 57 heads inclusion in the schedule will be put to a vote. Mr. Chairman, I've already applied to speak 10 times. Mr. Kwok-hung, I've already stated my reason. No, well, if other members doesn't wish to speak, it doesn't mean I don't want to speak. Mr. Kwok-hung, please don't argue with me, otherwise I will think that you are misbehaving. Well, this is a crucial question. Mr. Kwok-hung, I have said this to you in the beginning of the debate. And that is, before the conclusion or adjournment of this meeting tonight, we need to complete the whole procedure of the appropriation bill, and for this purpose I need to allocate the time properly. And we have had ample time, and I have said that since the start of the debate last week, we have spent more than 5 hours on this debate, and Mr. Kwok-hung, you have spoken 4 times. So 4 times putting together means 1 hour. And if you organize your arguments neatly, you would have put forward a very persuasive argument. So I think that time, you have been given ample time to speak. So I will invite you to speak one more time on including 57 heads in the schedule. If you want to argue further with me, I'll have to order you out of the chamber. Chairman, I just asked you a very simple question. Have you considered the rights of members in presiding over meetings like this, Mr. Chairman? Mr. Kwok-hung, if you do not speak to the subject of including 57 heads in the schedule, I'll have to direct you to discontinue your speech. Chairman, I'd like you to elaborate. Just now, you said that we've spoken for 5.5 hours, but it involves the inclusion of 57 heads in the schedule. And as I said while I spoke, if we are able to veto any of the heads, we can force the government to withdraw the appropriation bill. So for 57 heads, it's just not sufficient for me to talk about all of them in 15 minutes. Well, Mr. Albert Chan, your memory is not very good. You have spoken more than one time on FVHD. So it's not just 3 heads that you've spoken about. If you really want to lobby the support of other members, you will not waste your valuable time on analyzing a particular species of mosquitoes or to comment on the performance of the workers in a particular government department. I think you have spent much time already, so please be seated. Well, the manner of speech and the strategy is for the member to decide on his own. It's not for you to decide. This is not the people's hall. Well, I just want to correct this point. You allow me to speak for 15 minutes only, but I still have 50 heads to go. Well, will this take away my right to lobby members for support? I have rights to preside over meetings, and in accordance with my powers and functions, I make this decision. I have told members of my decision beforehand. So please do not waste time. Yes, you talk about your powers, Chairman, but does your power include one that takes away the rights of members? No, I'm not debating with you. I want it's a point of elucidation. Please be seated. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, what's your question? Point of order. I recall before the last session of a meeting ends, I asked Mr. Chairman how many times I could speak. At that time, Chairman, you could not answer me. You said that it depended on how many members would like to speak. And as a result, I am unable to consolidate my comments on, say, 3 or 4 heads. Now, Mr. Chan, I can reply to you now. You can speak for one more time. So in one single time, I cannot finish 3 or 4 heads. Please do so within 15 minutes. Mr. Leung Kwok-hung, do you wish to speak? Mr. Chairman, please pause here. Chairman. I formally raise my objection, Chairman. You can order me out of the chamber. I think you're prepared to do so. I just asked you a question. You are a Communist Party member, are you? Are you a Communist Party member? Are you a Communist Party member? Have you received orders from the Communist Party? Are you a Communist Party member? Are you a Communist Party member? Are you a member of the Communist Party? Have you received orders from the Communist Party? Have you received orders from the Chinese Communist Party? Are you a member of the Chinese Communist Party? Please leave the chamber at once, Mr. Leung Kwok-hung. Are you a member of the Chinese Communist Party? Are you a member of the Chinese Communist Party? Are you a member of the Chinese Communist Party? Are you a member of the Chinese Communist Party? Mr. Albert Chan. Yes. What's the question? About the order of this meeting. Chairman, I think you have great powers or functions to make rulings or decisions to restrict the time for members to speak. Please raise your question. But there should be something for us to anticipate about this meeting. Over the past 2 days, you've told the media that you will conclude the meeting tonight and have these heads be incorporated in the schedule. So there is expectation from members who wish to speak that you restrict their speaking time limit tonight.
And all of a sudden, members were told that they could only speak one more time. Now, Ms. Sit-ho, please be seated. Please let me explain. Yesterday, at the beginning of the meeting, I talked about this evening, yes. But I was talking about the completion of the proceedings for the bill in the evening on Tuesday. And I talked about what the remaining proceedings meant. And in fact, I meant the debate and also voting on the inclusion of the various heads, 57 heads. And I said that the voting would take about 2 hours. And after voting on the 57 heads, the inclusion of them in the bill, we have to deal with the inclusion of Clause 1 and Clause 2 in the bill. And I will, as in previous years, allow members to speak when we discuss the inclusion of Clause 1 and Clause 2 in the bill, because according to the rules of procedure, there won't be a debate during third reading. So I need to allow members an opportunity to state their position before third reading, whether they support the bill or not and why. And so in the last term, we decided that members could speak when Clause 1 and Clause 2 were included in the bill, so that members could explain why they supported or objected to the bill. And we have to reserve time for that debate. And so I intend to end the debate on the 57 heads after 6 hours, and then 2 hours for voting on the 57 heads, and then 4 hours for the debate on Clause 1 and Clause 2. And as a result, we should be able to complete all the proceedings by 10 p.m. In fact, yesterday when the meeting resumed, I explained all these arrangements to members very clearly. So, Ms. Sit-ho, you said that members did have legitimate expectations. And if members had listened to me carefully, they would not have expected this debate to go on till late in the evening today. Mr. Chi-chuen, Chairman, I cannot accept your unreasonable ruling. I was talking about the Security Bureau suppressing the interests of sexual minorities, and I wanted to also talk about Head 144, CMAB's position concerning the sexual minorities. And I don't think I can really finish all I want to say within 15 minutes. I want to tell sexual minorities that Mr. Tung Sing doesn't allow me to go on speaking. Now, Mr. Chi-chuen, I want to tell you that we do set time limits for all debates. Members may think that a 15-minute round or one 15-minute round is not enough for him to say all he wants to say. But as a member, you have the responsibility to organize your thoughts so that you can put forward all your arguments within 15 minutes. In fact, in many other debates, you may also think that the time you are allocated is not enough. But then, for the sake of the smooth operation of this council, we cannot allow anyone to go on speaking indefinitely. Now, Chairman, I'm not debating with you whether you should end the filibustering. But then if you had told us about your plan 3 to 4 rounds earlier, I would have organized my speeches. But now I don't have the chance to say the most important thing. Now, Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, I believe most members will say the most important thing right at the beginning. So, Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, please observe the rules. The ROP, please be seated. Mr. Albert Chan, do you wish to speak? Now, I have 15 minutes, Chairman, and I will spend the 15 minutes strongly criticizing and reprimanding the chairman for acting in a very unreasonable manner. The 15 minutes is mine, Chairman. Mr. Albert Chan, you've reached the ROP. You have to speak on the subject before us. I only have 15 minutes, Chairman. I need to explain to Hong Kong people why I can't cover 50 heads within 15 minutes. I need to let Hong Kong people understand how unreasonable you are acting. So in fact, you are like a party secretary. You are not our president. Stop, Mr. Albert Chan. I have 15 minutes and I have still over 14 minutes left. You are not speaking in accordance with the ROP. I need to explain my position to members of the public. I have 57 heads. Mr. Albert Chan, my ruling is that you have seriously breached the ROP, but there are 57 heads. I want to speak on the 57 heads. I want to explain why I don't have enough time. Now, this is my last warning to you, Mr. Albert Chan. Now, Chairman, this warning is most unreasonable. Leave this chamber immediately. Sang Yuk-sheng, are you a member of the Communist Party? Are you the Secretary General or the party secretary? Chairman, now you are unreasonable. You're trying to provoke members. Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, please be seated. You are a Communist Party member. Mr. Albert Chan, leave the chamber immediately. Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, you should also leave the chamber immediately. Mr. Albert Chan, Mr. Chen Chi-chuen, leave the chamber immediately. Leave the chamber immediately. Mr. Fernando Zhang. Chairman.
I
want to say that I find the approach you've adopted very regrettable. I want you to allow me to say a few fair words. At the closed meeting, you said that on Tuesday at 1 p.m., the debate on the amendments would have to come to an end. So that was what you said. You said that very clearly. And now, in fact, you made such remarks yesterday. Now, I want to say that on that day, I said many things. That you only quoted one of the remarks I made. I said before the 22nd of May, we should finish the proceedings on the bill. But Chairman, today, when the meeting resumed, or yesterday when the meeting resumed, you said that we had to finish the proceedings or the scrutiny of the bill. So our impression was that we would stop in the evening today. And you said that it would take about 2 hours to vote on the inclusion of the various heads into the bill. And you never mentioned 4 hours. You said that there would be time for a debate. And our impression was that the debate would end taking into account the 2 hours, and then, but are you saying that I should not allow time for debate on clauses 1 and 2? But then it was just now that you mentioned 4 hours, and so members didn't expect that they would only have one more round left. Just now I asked members or asked whether any member would like to speak. Now, if at that time many members indicated that they would want to speak, then I would allow more time for members on this debate, and I would allow less time for the debate on clauses 1 and 2, because I allowed 4 members to spend over 2/3 of the time speaking on the matter. And so would it be fair if other members do not have time to speak when we come to clauses 1 and 2? So Mr. Fernando Cheung, please begin your speech. Now this is your ruling, Chairman, but I want to say that I do not support your ruling. I'm of the view that you've abused your power, and I find your ruling and your approach regrettable. As members, we are also acting in accordance with Article 73 of the Basic Law. We have to examine and approve budgets introduced by the government. Now, I hope that members can effectively and in a responsible manner exercise their powers and functions under Article 73 of the Basic Law. So, Mr. Zhe, now I am exercising this power in a most responsible manner. Chairman, for a budget in a country, I believe you can regard it as the most important bill in that country or in that place, because the bill is about allocation of resources. And in a democratic country, it's common for Parliament to set up committees to scrutinize the bill, to have discussions of the executive, and then the bill will be put to a vote. The process is a very is a long one, is a detailed one, and then elected parliament members or members of the public have different ways to give their input. But in the SAR, we don't have such a mechanism. The financial secretary announces the budget in the council, and it is only then that we know of the content, and then we can only give our responses during our sittings. Are we given sufficient time? Now, some may think that we've spent several dozens of hours on this bill, and so we've spent too much time on the bill. But then, Chairman, you've reminded us that we should exercise our powers and functions under Article 73 effectively and in a responsible manner. And I want to say that, in fact, we haven't really got too much time. In fact, this bill affects people's livelihood greatly. Now, Mr. Fernando Cheung, please make the best use of your time. You've spoken twice, and you've spent most of your time on integrated education and special education. And in fact, you've only spoken on only one or two of the heads we have. Yes, I understand, Chairman. Of course, I am concerned about many issues in society. For example, the wealth gap. We have a very serious wealth gap problem. We have the disadvantaged groups, and even if these 57 heads are included in the bill, they are still denied the services and the support that they need. And in fact, on integrated education alone, I have already pointed out many problems. And there are so many areas which affect people's livelihood, medical services, environmental protection, housing. And I think much more resources are required to help people. Now, in fact, our resources are not being well spent. They have failed to reach those who have the greatest need. And even if these 57 heads are included in the bill, the resources concerned represent only 13 to 14% of our GDP. This is only a very small percentage of our economy. In many places, in many countries, they no longer allocate their resources based on the concept of a very small government and a big market. We can't over-rely on the market. In the market, there is very fierce competition. We have those who are powerful bullying the vulnerable, and the vulnerable are always the losers, and that's why the government has to try to secure the necessary resources through imposing taxes and then through providing housing services, education services, medical services. The government returns such resources to society, but our government wants to do the minimum. In fact, we are a capitalist society practicing the most primitive type of capitalism. Now, should you have said all these in the second reading debate? The chairman, of course, we were given a chance to speak during second reading, but then head 156 is education, head 141 is labor and welfare. And then food hygiene, health services, medical services, head 140. These are my main concerns. These are topics close to my heart. But I want to say that the funding for these policy areas is really not enough, especially when compared with the situation in other places. Now we have long queues at specialist clinics, at A&E departments. For specialist outpatient service, the waiting time is very long. And for psychiatric service, again, the waiting time is very long, and the consultation sessions are extremely short. And then education, we do not have enough preschool services. And for primary and secondary schools, we need to cut the number of classes. Some schools need to be closed down. And then at the same time, we have schools without enough classrooms, and then there are empty school premises, and then there are those who can meet the necessary requirements but cannot get into university, and then we have families living in substandard accommodation like partitioned rooms. So education, medical services, housing, welfare services. Under the lump sum grant system, NGOs are struggling hard to survive and to provide the services that their clients need. We're not providing enough services to the public. Why is it that we should continue in this manner? Why is it that we can't increase our public expenditure? Why is it that we can't increase the funding for providing public services so that we can provide necessary care and support for the disadvantaged groups? For example, elderly persons. Why is it that they can't get retirement protection? Why is it that they have to collect paper cartons on the streets? Is it that we don't have enough money? Is it that our economy has shrunk? In fact, since the handover, in fact, our GDP has increased by 50%. Now, people, especially those in the business sector, keep saying that we should try to make the pie or the cake bigger. In fact, the pie has become much bigger. But then the grassroots haven't been able to benefit. Only the wealthy people can benefit. Can Professor Chen tell us whether the government is becoming richer and richer? Is it that the government has now more and more reserves? Go to the HKMA's website and look at our foreign exchange reserves. Over $2,000 billion. Over $2,300 billion. And that's about 10 times our recurrent expenditure. Can I ask, where in this world can we find such a wealthy government?
Every year we debate the budget here, hoping that we can get some more resources to help the needy in our community so that they can have basic livelihood. We are in the 21st century. We are very advanced. We have a very good per capita GDP. But can the administration still say today, just like the other bureau secretary asked whether money would grow out from trees, dare you say that? You have $2,000 billion in your pocket. Maybe you can say that not all of it can be used, but tell me how much of it can be used. Be frank. How much of that possessed by the administration now can be used? Don't tell me about pension payments to civil servants. I'm not saying that you should not put aside any money for that, but this has to be ongoing. Every year people retire, but you get revenue every year. What is the relationship between what you are saying and the heads under debate? I'm telling the administration that such incorporation or inclusion is far from adequate. We have conditions and we have the ways to make people live better. Say, for example, in education, if we can have more university places, and if we can invest more on medical services, if we can hire more doctors and provide more services, so elderly people do not have to wait for their sicknesses to deteriorate and for them to leave us prematurely. We can do it. So why aren't we doing it? We have more and more money. That you cannot deny. The GDP is getting bigger every day, and there's more money in the pocket of the administration. But then the administration gets richer, but people get poorer. We have the biggest wealth gap in the world. And also, you say you're drawing up a poverty line. And it is set at half of the median household income. The Hong Kong CSS, the Hong Kong Oxfam have already done that before. They have used the figures of the Census and Statistics Department, and we could see that 17 or 18% of our population are poor people. This is shameful. We are such an advanced and affluent society, and yet why is it that about half or about a fifth of our population are poor people? Why is it that about a quarter of our children, and we are talking about people under the age of 18, why are they living in a poor family? Why is it that a third of our elderly people are poor elderly people? Why is it that after 10 odd years into the handover, after we have had over 10 such budgets, when we say we allocate public money to help the poor, why is it that the more you say you help them, there are more of these people? Why is it that there are more subdivided flats? What is this administration doing? You include these heads, but is that going to be effective? If it is not effective, did you do any review? Do you have the data? Do you have any intention to plan for the future? Nothing. Towards all these heads to be included, I express huge concern. I don't think the administration knows what it's doing. Its focus is not on livelihood of the people. This is really very angering. We're not talking about constitutional development. We're not talking about sharing your powers. I'm talking about making use of the very basic responsibility of the administration, and that is to make use of public resources to help those in need. And I'm not necessarily just talking about the poor. in this capitalist society, there are people who will never be winners, and the administration has the responsibility to help them. Don't just talk about economic development. Who is it for? Who will benefit from economic development? Only the conglomerates, only the minority are going to benefit, and the administration is defending the interests of these people all the time. And our council is supporting what the administration is doing. Chairman, I don't think this debate is meaningful anymore. And unfortunately, you have cut off the filibuster. This debate will end here. Now the committee will vote on the 57 heads for them to be included in the schedule. I now put the question to you, and that is that head 21 and its amount be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against? I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question, and that is head 22 and its amount be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think Mr. Yiu-chung claims a division. The bell will ring for 1 minute. Voting begins. Please ring the bell to summon members to come back.
請各位表決。
Please proceed to vote.
請各位核對表決。
Please check your votes. If there is no question, voting is closed. Results are displayed. 37 members present, 32 for, 4 against, no abstention. The question is agreed by majority of members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question, and that is that the amount in head 24 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 30 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 31 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 37 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 39 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 44 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 46 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 49 be included in the schedule. I beg your pardon. It should be the amount in head 47 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I declare the motion passed. And I'll put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 49 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I'll put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 53 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I'll put the question, and that is that the amount in head 55 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 59 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 62 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 63 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 70 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 72 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 74 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 74 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 79 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 80 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 82 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed.
I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 90 be included in the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 91 stand part of the schedule. I now would those in favor please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put a question to you, and that is that the amount in head 92 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put a question to you, and that is that the amount in head 94 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put a question to you, and that is that the amount in head 95 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 96 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 100 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I'll put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 122 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 137 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 138 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise your hands? Those against, please raise your hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 139 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 140 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 141 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 142 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 143 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 144 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 147 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by the majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 148 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. Head 151. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 151 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 152 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in head 155 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 156 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 158 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in head 159 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in 160 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in Head 162 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in Head 163 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is the amount in Head 169 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in Head 170 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in Head 173 be passed. Will those in favor stand part of the schedule? Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in Head 180 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now put the question to you, and that is that the amount in Head 186 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in Head 190 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. And I put the question to you, and that is that the amount in 9194 stand part of the schedule. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. I now propose the question to you, and that is that the schedule stand part of the bill. According to Sub-Rule 4 of Rule 68 of the Rules of Procedure, this question cannot be amended and cannot be debated upon. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Those against, please raise their hands. I think the question is agreed by a majority of the members present. I declare the motion passed. The Council and Committee now scrutinizes the clauses